Next, we will have our James Baldwin Scholar and alumni speaker, Dr. McMillan. But before I pass the mic to Dr. McMillan, I will try to read their amazing work that they've done since leaving Hampshire College. So just bear with me as I read their narrative, and then I will pass the mic to Dr. McMillan. So, Christopher-Rasheem McMillan is a performance related artist and scholar. He has a joint appointment between dance and gender, women's and sexuality studies at the University of Iowa. Dr. McMillan received his BA from Hampshire College, his MFA in experimental choreography from the Laban Conservatory in London, and his PhD in theology and religious studies from King's College in London as well. His interest is choreography in an expanded field, something that he has approached through experimental practices and creative processes. In a multiplicity of formats and expressions, he uses video, performance, photography, and oral storytelling to explore themes of race, memory, queer desire, religion, personal, and public mythology. Dr. McMillan's performance works have been seen at venues such as the Bates Dance Festival of Bates College, Providence International Arts Festival, and the Dance Complex and Green Street Studios in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as well as in performance platforms such as the 2011 participatory event Beyond Text, London. He was a 5 college fellow for the 2013-14 academic year and Grant Wood Fellow for the 2016-17 academic year. His writing has been published in the Journal of Dance, Movement, and Spiritualities and Contact Quarterly. Dr. McMillan received the Collegiate Teaching Award from the University of Iowa, and he is currently in a fellowship at the Institute of Sacred Music at Yale University. So, everyone, I would love if you could help me in welcoming and giving a vibrant virtual round of applause to Dr. McMillan.
Hello. Okay, great. um, Thank you, Judah, for that. That was really beautiful. I hardly even knew it was myself. I was like, oh, who's this dude? So thank you so very much. And thank you to the James Baldwins who went before, listening to your stories and looking at your work. I feel pretty inspired. So thank you so very much for that. Um, uh, from my past, at least, thank you to Maddie Marquez. Thank you to Orion, Ellie Siegel. Thank you to Jola. I think Jola might be here. Thank you, Jola, for everything you've done. And thank you to my beloved friend and esteemed colleague, Dean Karina Fernandez, who is shepherding us forward, um, hopefully for the next 20 years for James Baldwin's future, for our future as a group. It's so good to be here among family and friends. These are unprecedented, uncharted, and in some ways downright scary times. Between white supremacy and Zoom fatigue, we might begin to wonder, where exactly is this train going, and can I get off of it? Since my time as a Baldwin, which I remember quite fondly, sort of 3 things ring to me as like truths, and I'd like to share those with you. I will be rather brief today, which is not my usual style. But yeah, I think I'm going to be a little brief today, but we'll see where we go. The first thought, first like value that I think comes from my time as a Baldwin is perfect is the enemy of good. I feel like I've spent a lot of time and I've wasted a lot of time and a lot of energy trying to be perfect, trying to prove myself worth, even though my worth is indeed God-given. I spend too much time, in fact, trying to prove I'm just as smart as my colleagues, and particularly just as smart as my white male colleagues. I'm often trying to make the perfect dance, my writing to be perfect, when actually I'm perfect. I'm perfect in my imperfections, and we're perfect in our imperfections. And or whatever we set our hands to do just needs to be approached with rigor, humility, and grace. See, I recall that when the creator finished making the world, if you believe in that sort of thing, she said, "It is good." And if good is good enough for God, then it is perfect for me. Um, like, we're not actually required to exhaust our flame on works that will never be perfect. We are invited instead to be steadfast in our vision and to bravely pursue our goals and our ancestors' dreams. We do not have to be perfect. Perfect is indeed the enemy of good. Um, there are no long wolves anymore in this pack. When we became JBs, when we are JB adjacent or friends of JBs or lovers of JBs or alums or whoever we are, and we are connected to the JB program, we are indeed family. We've been welcomed into a family that cares not just about our coursework, but about our life's work. That is to say, we are partners in each other's stories. We're caught up in each other's victories, and we share in each other's grief. The great sin of academia is a success primarily to how hard you work rather than one's unearned advantage. But today the invitation is to choose to work hard, yes, but also to not do it alone. We don't have to do it alone. We can ask for help. We can strive to help others if it is at all possible. We can build networks that stretch back to our ancestors and forwards to the generation that will inherit our legacy. We can do this. We can burn out. We can waste a lot of time thinking it all depends on us. And we can fail to tap into our communal wealth. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that has the answer and has what you need. And all we have to do is ask. As a Black queer man, something new is trying to kill me every day. Whether it's my genetics, my propensity for sugar, or whether it's white cops, or whether it's our president's rhetoric, something new is trying to kill us every day. And I think the best thing that we can do is choose to live beautifully in a system that is requiring often our deaths as a norm for how this democracy works. And so I want to share a personal story with you. I finished my PhD at King's College in London, and it was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to write. And maybe you might identify, I'm not actually the greatest writer. It's a struggle for me. And towards now, I find there's some peace and there's some joy in that struggle, but it was really hard. And in fact, there's some parts of myself I feel like I still haven't gotten back since finishing the PhD. But I'd like to read something that my examiner said to me. He's British, so they send their comments ahead of time, so you're not surprised when you walk in the room. And so he said this about my dissertation. This thesis certainly couldn't be accepted as a doctoral dissertation at the moment on technical grounds: errors, stylistic inconsistencies, incomplete references, deviations from conventions, such as use of italics, essay titles, etc. But I wouldn't know where to begin to advise how this might be turned into a doctoral dissertation that could be accepted as such. And I say that recognizing that there are sections that are remarkable for their imaginative inventiveness and original insight. For example, the work on representation, presentation, being biblical character, event, memory, enactment, afterlife, embodiment, kinship and queerness, Christianity's own investment in the discipline of and embodied hospitality. When Graham Ward, who is a professor at Oxford, said this about, I thought I would lose my mind. And I thought in my head, well, we're both going to need Jesus. If he walks in the room and he says this, I'm going to need Jesus and he's going to need Jesus, but for totally different reasons. He might need him to restrain me for what I might do to Graham Ward if he actually says this out loud. And it was so rough to hear him like articulate this. And I'd worked so hard, and there's this way in that I find that there's a new mountain, there's a new struggle. Again, there's like something trying to take me or hurt me every single time. And I imagine myself like in this moment, where it's not just like me who's invested in my PhD. It's my family, it's my friends, it's people who sat with me while I wrote, it's people who like gave me $10 and said, oh, buy a cup of coffee and keep writing. Like people have pitched in, that PhD is communal. And Graham was saying that it wasn't up to par. And he was real and he was right. In that moment, my writing was subpar. And yet it wasn't just me in that room. First and foremost, God was with me, as expressed through Jesus Christ, as I understand him. And my community was with me. My friends, my lovers, my family were with me too. And it is as if I was like watching my and like being pressed against the Red Sea, where like there's Pharaoh's army at my back, there's a sea, and I just have no way out. Like it's sort of like not being able to pay your cell phone bill, or not being able to know whether your check will actually stretch to the end of the month. I mean, these struggles are real. They are real material struggles in our lives. And I remember a special colleague said to me, you know how you eat an elephant, right? And I was like, what? Yeah, you know how you eat an elephant. And I was like, no, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And there will be our struggles. There will be moments where we are afraid. There will be times where we feel like we don't have what we need to be successful or to move forward. Times where we feel like imposters, even though our street credit was earned. There were times we feel like we are not enough, even though we are purely and truly always going to be more than enough already. But we can face this, we can do this one bite at a time, one moment at a time. Even if all the people around us have gone off script, which is what I feel like these days. I feel like I'm living in a reality TV show where no one's paying attention to the cue cards. And so there's a way in which I wonder if there's no one paying attention to the cue cards, could I also go rogue? Could I use this moment of people's confusion about what should be happening to like forge forth and like call my own dreams into fruition? And I think like that is our opportunity in the light of things that require our depths, both metaphorically and physical as well. How do we just go forward one bite at a time, in a place that isn't warm and welcoming to us? And how do we build a community, a communal love that can support not only one of us or two of us, it can support all of us as we move forward. I think the key, or what we're invited to do, is to take each other's lives incredibly serious, and the value of each other's lives seriously, and by extension, each other's works, and how we go about making meaning in our lives. And so when I'm reflecting back on my time at Hampshire College, it was magical. It was special. And I have yet to be able to go back to a time where I felt as happy and as whole as the time I spent as a JB. And the community held me so tightly, that I hope we continue this practice of holding space for each other. I had an opportunity to write my senior colleague at Oxford, Dr. Graham Ward, from my desk here at Yale, and I reminded him about his comments, his very helpful and hurtful comments about my work. So what he only replied to was, "Well done, well done," which I like to think he said, "Well played." And so we can do this one bite at a time, one step at a time, and asking each other for help, and helping when it is possible, and helping when it might cost us a little bit. Thank you for being such a beautiful community for me and for those who are before us and after us. Thank you so very much.
So thank you so much, Dr. McMillan. As you were speaking, I was writing. And so I'm going to read what I wrote because I think it's important to express gratitude. So thank you, Dr. McMillan, for such surprising revelations and the valuable truths, right? Because you spoke about two of them. So perfect is the enemy of good. So I just want to repeat that and say that again. Perfect is the enemy of good. And then the other important thing that you mentioned is there are no lone wolves in this pack. So hear us, Dr. Christopher-Rasheem McMillan, as I believe everyone in this space will agree. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences. Um, Thank you for the luster you bring to this community. So you know someone has said a word when you're taking notes as they're just like informally speaking and being themselves. I took notes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.